Okay guys, this is a mock set 3 paper 1 non-calculator. This will be really good practice for working on and recapping your prior skills. So it says answer all questions, write down all the stages in your working. This is important to earn method marks just in case you make a mistake. So we know question 1, we just add the powers. So that's going to be 3 to the 5, add 4, because the bases are the same, and we're going to get 3 to the power 9 divided by 3 to the power 2, and we should know we subtract the bases when we divide, so that's going to be 3 to the power 7. Not bad at all. We should know anything to the power 0 equals 1. Now if you think 3 to the 0 equals 1, so 3 to the minus 1, you're going to be dividing by 3 at each step, and then 3 to 1 is times 3, and 3 squared, so forth. So that is 1 over 3, so 3 to the minus 2 is 1 over 3 squared, which equals 1 over 9, because it does say value here. So do not leave your answer as 1 over 3 squared. The value is going to be 1 over 9. Okay, question 2. I'm going to zoom out of that a little bit. So we've got space. So we have a cuboid here, guys, and there's a fish tank. Key fact, it's 3/4 full of water and sand, and you have a ratio of 5 to 1. And we need to find a number of litres of water in the tank. Show all your working. So the first thing we can do for 1 mark, definitely a processing mark, is to work out the volume of the whole tank. So we would need to do 20 times 32 times 50. I'll do 20 times 50 first, which we will know equals 1,000. Now let's do 1,000 times 32 equals 32,000 centimeters cubed. That's part 1. Now it's 3/4 full, so we need to do 32,000 times 3 over 4. So 32,000 divided by 4 is 8,000. And we times that by 3. And that's going to equal 24,000 centimeters cubed. So we've got to share. There's 6 parts here. So we're going to find one part, which we're going to do just 24,000 divided by 6. And we know that's going to be 4,000. So 1 part equals 4,000. That 5 represents the water and the 1 represents the sand. So 5 times 4,000 will equal 20,000 centimeters cubed. Now be careful, it says the number of litres in the tank. So hopefully you remember that 1000 centimeters cubed equals 1 litre. So hopefully you'll know that the answer then will be 20 litres, and that's a key answer mark, and this conversion is worth a method mark as well. So doing a 20,000 divided by 1,000. So you can see so many students will only get 3 out of 5 marks here, and there's an extra 2 answer marks or working out marks again by reading and seeing that word litres there. Okay, in a cell the price of a cooker is reduced by 50%. At the end of the sell price of the cooker is increased by 50%. The cooker is now the same price as it was before the sale, Betty says. Is she correct? Well, we can just pretend that the cooker costs £100, and if it's reduced by 50%, then it will now cost £50. Now if we increase 50 by 50%, we know 10% equals 5, so 50% equals 25, so the new price will be £75, which is not the same price. And using any value, but 100 is just nice and easy, and then you need to justify it. Right, here's a kite. All angles are measured in degrees. Work out the value of y. So we know it is a four-sided shape, so we're going to be working with a total of 360 degrees. Now it is a kite, and we can see it has a line of symmetry here. So our first step is we need to spot that 5x in the bracket minus 10 is going to equal 3x plus 10. We need to find this missing information because we've got the 110. Find these two angles and subtract from 360 to find y. So that is 5x minus 50 equals 3x plus 10. Now we always minus the smallest amount of x from each side because it's just an easier method. So we get 2x minus 50 equals 10. We add the 50 on both sides, and then we get 2x equals 60. So we know x equals 30. Let's sub that back into here. So 30, 3 times 30 is 90 plus 10. So we know that angle is 100. That angle is 100. If you just write that down there, that is worth a method mark. So we just need to do 360 minus these 3 angles added together, which would be 310. So that's 50, so y will equal 50. And that is a very nice 4 marks that you can get. 50 degrees. So we've got to solve this simultaneous equation. So if we call one of these equation 1 and equation 2, we want to have one of the x's or y's the same, so I would multiply 1 times 2 because that would be the easiest to get 6x minus 4y equals minus 10. I'm going to write 2 below. 2x minus 4y equals 2. Now be careful here, if you've got a minus and a minus, how are we going to cancel out? Well, we're going to minus everything here because these two minuses would change into a plus and minus here. and many students will make a mistake on this purely because negative numbers, people do make a mistake. So that's 4x, the y's would cancel, minus 10 minus 2, that's going to be minus 12. So divide by 4, divide by 4, but hopefully you can just see the answer, x equals minus 3, and sub into whichever one you find it easiest to find y. It doesn't matter in this case. I'm going to sub that into 1. 3 times minus 3 equals minus 9, minus 2y equals minus 5. We're going to add 9 on both sides, so we're going to get minus 2y equals 4. Now we don't want negative terms of y, so we're going to divide both sides by minus 2, so that get rid of the minus 2, and a negative divided by a negative makes a positive, so y would equal minus 2. So what do we have here? X equals minus 3, y equals minus 2. And people do make mistakes on this. Double check by substituting it into the second one. So what's that to make sure? So 2 times minus 3 is 6. And we've got minus 2 times minus 2. No, sorry, 4 times minus 2 is minus 8. We can see that will change into minus 6 plus 8, which does equal 2. So we know we're correct and we've got full marks there. And if you do this anyway, as long as you show your working and get x equals minus 3, y equals minus 2, you're going to get your full marks. If you don't know how to do it, try to match coefficients and do something and you'll get there eventually. Right, question 6. Let's see what we have here. We've got a regular octagon. That means all the sides are the same and the angles are the same. That's what the word regular means. ADJ is a straight line. Angle bad, the bad angle, that's BAD, the letter in the middle, equals, so these two equal. Okay, show that angle CDJ, so CDJ, so we're talking that's CDJ here. And you need to show that equals 135. So, first thing is we need to know what the interior angle of each rectangle is, because that's going to help us answer the question. So I like to use this formula, 360 over n equals the exterior angle. We know the octagon's 8-sided shape, so 360 divided by 8 equals 45. Now that's the exterior angle. So that means if you draw a line here, this is going to be 45. This is a straight line. 180 minus 45 equals 135. So this angle here must be 135. So all these angles are 135. So a little bit of problem solving here. Right, knowing these angles down here aren't going to help us. And then actually, even knowing if this whole thing is 135, doesn't mean we'll know what this angle here is or this angle here is. But, let me change colour pen. And I want to you to see something. What do we know? What do we have here? It is a trapezium, but it's a 4-sided shape. It's a quadrilateral. So those interior angles are going to sum to 360, right? So we add 135 to 135 to get 270. 360 minus the 270 is going to equal 90. Now we know this equals this, and there's two angles to find, so 90, let's just call it equals 2x, so x must equal 45. That's 45 and that's 45. Show that angle CDJ is 135. Well, you've got angles on a straight line. So if you've got this bit here, which is 45, then a CDJ must be 180 minus 45, which is 135. Now you could also use angles on the parallel line, and then you can see that we have an alternate angle here as well, but do give the reasons to back up your method, and so you can get your full marks. And you can write that down. BCD and CDJ are alternate angles. Alternate angles, and so there's more than one way. You're still going to get full marks either way. So this is standard form. Standard form is a number between 1 and 10 times 10 to the power something. Now this is a number less than 1, so we should remember that we have to do n is going to be a minus number. So we know it's got to be 5.49. Now look, that's going to be 3 steps, so we've got to times that by 10 to the power of minus 3. And if you also count backwards from here, let's do the decimal point here, and you can go back 1, 2, 3 to get to return. So we know that's the right answer for one easy mark. Find the value of this in standard form. So we know that's 8 times 10 cubed times 8 times 10 cubed. We can multiply the 8 times 8 to get 64, and that's going to be times 10 to the power of 6. That will get you 1 mark. This is not between 1 and 10, so we need to make that 6.4. So if you think we've divided that by 10 to make this into 6.4, so we need to times this by 10. We've divided by 10 here to get 6.4, so we need to times by 10 here to make the number the same and to write this in standard form. And you'll be surprised, a lot of people do lose a mark here. We're adding in standard form. Well, the easiest way to do this is just to convert it to real numbers and add it together and convert it back. So 7.6 times 10 to the power of 5. Well, 76 will be times 10. That's 10 squared, 10 cubed, 10 to the power of 4, 10 to the power of 5. 10, 100, 1000, 10,000, 100,000. Plus 8.7 times 10 to the 4. Make sure your numbers line up. So that's 8, 7, 1, 2, 3. And if you can see, let me just do this. If the decimal point is here, times 1, 10, 2 10s, 3 and 4. Double check that you've got this right. Add these up. 0, 0, 0, 7, 4, carry the 1, 8. Now let's convert that back to standard form. So 8.47. If it helps, put the decimal point here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 10 to the power of 5. A nice straightforward 2 marks. I'll be happy if this question appears in your mocks. Question 8. Now this is a problem solving with averages. So we have the mean and a mean score for children. So work out the mean score for the men. So the mean score of women is 15.6. So if there's 10 women, well the mean is normally, you add up all the scores and divide by the amount of people. And if this is the mean score for the women and there's 10 women, that means the total score for the women must be 10 times 15.6, which equals 156. The mean score for children is 9.2, and there's 10 children, so we do 10 times 9.2, which equals 92. Now Kevin says the mean score for 40 people is 11.2. So work out the mean for the men. So we just have to work out 40 times, and this is just going to get you some method marks, times 2. Now to be honest, if you're not good at doing things like this, just do 11.2 4 times, because that's timesing it by 4, correct? 8, that's 4, and that's 4. And then you've times this by 4 already, so we just need to times this answer by 10. So that's 448 points in total. So we have these two scores. So we have 448 minus the women's score. So let's do the women, add the children. That's 8, 4, carry the 1, 2, 4, 8. And they've made your numbers quite nice. If you subtract that, that's going to be 200. So the men have 200 points in total, but then they had 20 men, so we do 200 divided by 20 to find the mean score, like one of the average for the men, which is the men actually get 10 points each. So it shows you actually girl power, the women are getting more points than the men in the competition, which is nice. In the past you wouldn't have got a question showing women getting more points than men. So this is a thinking question. The mean score for all 40 people was actually 11.15. And 11.15 is smaller, it's less than 11.2, because that's 11.20, right? So if the total mean is less than what the original mean was, then the men's mean is going to be lower. So the mean is going to be reduced or lower since the total is lower or reduced. That should make sense to you. Okay, we have a stem and leaf diagram and there's 25 people. And we have to do a box plot for this. So to do a box plot, we're going to need a maximum value, a minimum value, the median, the lower quartile and the upper quartile. So the max value is easy. That's going to be 41 because you can see the key. What the key means. The minimum value has to be 17. Now the middle number here is going to be 25 plus 1 divided by 2. So that's going to be in the 13th position. Or you can just cross off like here, like so, until you get to the middle as well. But I like doing it this way. So the 13th position is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. The median is 28. Now, you can find what's in the middle between the median and the first number to get the lower quartile, but I like to do it this way. You're less likely to make a mistake, so you need to do 26 divided by 4 to get the lower quartile, which you should know is 6.5. If you're not sure of how to do that, just use your bus stop method, right? 4 into 26 is 6. Put the 0 in. Your remainder is 2. So it's 6.5. So it's quite easy to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6.5 will be here. So the lower quartile is 23. Now the upper quartiles are going to be 3 quarters, so just do 6.5 times 3, which is 19.5. I know that's the 13th number. 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 19.5, so that's going to be 32.5 as upper quartile. And then we've just filled those in to get our full marks. So if you've forgotten how to do it, you should still do this for method marks. That's 41. Those are the whiskers. The minimum is 17. And just check the scale. Yeah, it's all going up in 1, so that's perfect. Oopsie. The lower quartile is 23. So see that, be careful there. Upper quartile is 32. And the median is 28. Now obviously use a ruler. I mean, ideally I would have got the lines to line up, but that will get you the marks, and that's quite easily done. So, what is the probability that this person is 30 years of age or older? Because when one of these people are chosen at random. Now, if you had just had the box plot on its own, you would have to work out based on what a box plot means, and the upper quartile from here to here means 25%. This box represents 50% of the people, and this represents 25%. But you've got to remember, you've got this information. So just count 30 or older, that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you know there's 25 people, so it's just 10 out of 25, and that's the easiest way to do that. And if you simplify that fraction, that's fine as well, but I'll just leave it like that. It doesn't ask you to simplify. Okay, so we've got a group frequency table here, which gives us different information about people's ages. And Anne drew this table, a cumulative frequency table, for this information. The table is not correct. What's one thing wrong with this table? Well, if you remember, that when it's cumulative, can you see this is exactly the same? So that should actually be 0 because it's all the data from 0 to 20, 0 to 30 to then make that 19. That should be 0, that should be 0. So write that down here. Class intervals incorrect. Incorrect should be 0A to 20 to 30 and so forth. We have this vector, so remember that's the number at the top means that's 3 is left to right, so it's positive, so that's 3 to the right, and 2 is positive, so that's 2 up. So you can see that's going 3 to the right and 2 up. So it says now do BC, and so that's -1, that's left 1, and that's positive, so that's up 4. So left 1 and up 4. Make sure that's a straight line. And that's C. That's your nice 1 mark. Now it says AD equals AB minus BC. On the grid with a cross. So cross the position of D. Label this point D. So sometimes I've seen in the past they ask you to add or subtract two vectors. So when you add or subtract these vectors, so we're subtracting them. Just a bit of extra knowledge for you. You just add. It's just like adding and subtracting numbers. So 3 minus 1 becomes 3 plus 1. So that becomes 4. 2 minus 4. So that vector is 4 minus 2. Now it does say AD. So from A, starting from A, what's the direction? 4. So that's 4 to the right, down 2. That will be D there, and that, with a straight line, is AD. Now this will make sense because if you see BC, now that's positive going this way. If it's going negative, because it's going in this direction, so if it's negative it's going in the other direction, so we just continue that line, so it'll be going this way, and then that's where you can see with a big cross D is there, and that will get you your 2 marks. That's easy if you know what to do. Inverse proportion. So if we remember what inverse proportion is, if you remember the formula, these questions become banker marks. So it's P, and that's a symbol for proportion, is inverse, so it's always going to be 1 over something. It says the square root of m. Now we want to find a constant of proportion, so we can also write this as k over the square root of m. So they've given us some values, and from here we just substitute and we use this. So we say P equals k over the square root of m. So when P equals 10, we're going to get k over the square root of 1 over 4. Now, what's the square root of 1 over 4? What do we have to times by itself to get 1 over 4? And that's a half. And some people might write 1 over 8 here as a mistake, because we know 1 over 2 times 1 over 2 equals 1 over 4. So this is going to become 10 equals k k divided by half. Now when you divide by half, it's the same as multiplying by 2. So let's just write this so it's easier for us to rearrange. We've got 10 equals k divided by 0.5. So we're going to times both sides by 0.5. We're going to get k equals 5. 10 times a half is 5. So we can rewrite this as p equals 5 over root m. I mean, do rearrange this in a better order than me. So we've got work out the value of m when p equals 2. So we've got 2 equals 5 over square root of m. So let's multiply by the square root of m from both sides. So we have 2 root m equals 5. So we divide by 2, right? By both sides. So we get root m equals 2.5. Square both sides. So hopefully you know 2.5 squared is 6.25. You can work that out. And that's m. That's your answer. So write it somewhere nice, so the examiner can see, and that's it, you've aced that question. So step 1 is we've got this circle, and it's just in terms of n, but we just use our pi r squared facts, but with algebra. So that's pi r squared equals area. Now you can see r is the big circle minus a small circle. So that radius is 2n plus 6. So we've got pi times 2n plus 6 squared. And then we've got another one. The smaller circle is pi times n minus 1 squared. So let's work that out. I'm going to do the first one now. Just expand brackets how you normally would. So we're going to have pi times 4n squared plus 24n plus 36 minus pi n minus 1 squared is going to be n squared minus 2n. Minus 1 times minus 1 is plus 1, but just do this carefully yourself. You could expand all this out and simplify it. And essentially because it says the area of R is greater than a circle with this radius, we can just create this inequality here, and that's going to be pi n plus 13 squared. Now because we've got pi on both sides, can you see we can divide out by pi on both sides, hopefully, and it's just going to make your working out a bit easier. So that's just, that pi is going to cancel, this pi is going to cancel because you're dividing pi to each term. So all you need to do now is simplify this. 4n squared plus 24n plus 36 minus n squared. Now remember, this is where everyone goes wrong. You've got minus and a minus in the bracket, so that's going to be plus 2n, and this is where people are going to make a mistake here. Minus 1 is greater than, let's just expand that out now, n squared plus 26n, and I'm going to run out of space, plus 169. So let's simplify this left hand side. 4n squared minus n squared, we're going to have 3n squared. 24n plus 2n, that's going to give us 26n. Plus 36 minus 1 is plus 35, and that's going to be greater than n squared plus 26n plus 169. Now, apologies, my writing is not great on this. This new tablet is doesn't write so cleanly when I'm zoomed into something for some reason. Don't know what that is, why that is. Okay, I need to work out how to fix that. So we rearrange and isolate n terms. So we rearrange this by obviously minusing n squared on both sides and then minusing the 26n. All in one go. So that gives us 2n squared plus 35 is greater than 169. We're going to minus the 35 on this side. We could factorise and make it 0 to find two numbers, but let's just do it this way because we want to find the least possible value for n, and n is an integer, so let's minus 35 on both sides. We get 2n squared is greater than 134. Divide by 2, so n squared is greater than 67. So what do we know? When n equals 7, that's going to equal 49. N equals 8, that's going to be 64. N equals 9, can you see? That's going to be 81. It is talking about the n has to be an integer, so n has to be 9 for it to be greater, so n equals 9, and that is 5 marks done. So this question here, there's a graph and a coffee shop, but it says find the estimate of the gradient at time 5 minutes. Now be careful, this is going downhill, so the gradient is going to be negative. Easy mistake, and I reckon this is going to be the most common mistake. So obviously a tangent touches the line once, so try to do it accurately with a ruler. I'm going to say that is roughly 48, and that is going to be, let's say 17 or 16. Let's just use 16. So we get change in y over the change in x is 48 over 16, which equals 3. And we know this is negative, it's going downhill, so that's fine. That's your working out. Drawing a line, and they will accept a range of minus 2.5 to minus 3.5 as your answer, so you have got a large margin of error. What does the gradient represent? Well, it's the rate of change. So that's in minutes. So for every minute at that point, the temperature of the coffee is going down by 3 degrees. That's what you could write. Every minute, coffee temp decreases by 3 degrees. So we've got a model problem here. It says you've got a particle. It's moving on a straight line. O is a fixed point on a straight line. And the distance s meters of P from O at time t. So this is time. This is time against distance s here. And it says use algebra to find the greatest distance of O between when t equals 0 and 16. Because I guess, well, that's going to mean that's 0 and that's 16 right there. That's the clue. Now, the greatest distance of s, so when s at the highest value, that's going to be the turning point. Now they've given you the 0 for 16, so you've got the line of symmetry there. So you know t equals 8 seconds in this case. So we can just substitute here, t equals 8. So the greatest distance s equals 80 times 8 minus 5 times 8 squared, which is 64. That's going to be 640 minus 320. So s is going to equal 320. Now, there's another way you can do this by factorising this out. We can take 5 16t minus t squared, or write 5t 16 minus t. Now why you do this is because when s is 0, so s is 0, that will give us the answer of t equals 0 and t equals 16. And I think you have to do this. You can't just assume this is 0 and 16, to be fair, looking at it. I just assumed it was. So we can see the distance 0 is going to be this point here and this point here. And the answer to that is going to be when this bracket is 0. So the answer is going to be t equals 0 and t equals 16. So you know these points are 0 and 16, which will in turn allow you to know it's at its highest point at t equals 8 seconds. And then substitute. Right, we have this probability question related to algebra. And if we know how to do this and apply algebra skills, it shouldn't be too difficult. Shanza takes 2 balls from the bag, show that the probability of both balls are the same colour is n over 2n plus 1. Right, so first thing we know is the total number of balls in the bag is going to be n plus 1, which is the red and blue balls together. So that's 2n plus 1 in total. Now we know red equals n, and blue is the number of n plus 1. So to pick out one red at the start, and red is worth n, will be n out of 2n plus 1. That's picking a red ball at the start. So to pick another red ball, well, we've got one less, so we can say that's n minus 1 because we picked out a red ball here, and there's one less in the bag, so that's 2n. That's the probability of picking 2 red balls. Let's multiply that together. So we're going to get n squared plus n over 2n plus 1. I'm just going to leave that for now. That's the probability of getting 2 reds. or 2 blues, so the 2 blues is n plus 1, that's going to get you a method mark, over 2n plus 1. That's 1 blue, so the second blue is, we've got 1 less blue, so now that's going to be n times 2n. So this time, oh sorry, this is going to be minus n. So here we're going to get n squared plus n divided by 2n and 2n plus 1, and that's the probability of p blue blue. Let's write p red red here. Now that looks good. So we've got to show they're both that colour. So we just add those two together. So what's this added together? We've got the denominators the same, but I'm going to do the full working out. We didn't need to expand too much, because if you can look at this question, we want to keep things as simple as possible. Plus n squared plus n over 2n plus 1. So we're adding that together, so we're going to get 2 lots of n squared. So we're going to get 2n squared over 2n over 2n plus 1. That looks correct, because we can simplify that out by cancelling out the 2's. And I'm going to write it like this so you can see n times n over n 2n plus 1, and then obviously we can cancel out the n's to get the final answer of n over 2n plus 1, which is what they've asked for. That's your full marks. How much is that worth? 4 marks. So not too difficult if you know what to do. These types of questions seem to appear a lot, so it's good to know. I've seen it appear a few times now. Okay, so step 1 for this question is it's talking about greater mass. We've got density, and you see we've had volume here, so we know it's a mass volume density question. So I just remember the formula by remembering who David Beckham married Victoria. So we know mass equals density times volume. So let's start with this. Sphere A the volume is going to equal 4 over 3 pi times 8, and for B it's going to be 4 over 3 pi times 27. Now the key is this is in centimetres cubed, density is in metres cubed. So we want to convert this, and that's kilograms. So there's 1,000 grams in kilograms, and you need to see this so you understand that's 1 metre, 1 metre. Now if you convert that to centimetres, 100 centimetres, which is in a metre, 100 centimetres, so the volume of a metre cube is actually 100 centimetres times 100 times 100, which is actually 1 million. Okay, now it's in kilograms, let's convert that to grams. So there's 1,000 in 1 million right here. Let's cancel out those zeros. So we've got something easier to work with. So sphere A, the mass is going to be 4/3 times pi times 8. Now, can we see if we do 19,000 divided by 1,000 here, or times by 1/1000, that's just going to be times 19. That's the density of, a mass, sphere A. And sphere B is going to be 4/3 pi times 10, but times the 27, times the 27 times 10 equals the mass of sphere B. And right, do we need to work out anything more here? Well, these are the same here, so we just need to work out here this and this. So we've got 4/3 pi, 8 times 19, 80 and 72 is times 152. That's sphere A. And sphere B is going to be 4/3 pi times 270. Sphere B, and well, 270 is greater than 152, so you can say the silver sphere B, to get your communication mark, has greater mass. No, I would probably do that way, so that you don't make a possible mistake in future, because they do try to trick you with in units sometimes, so that's good to know. And you can actually just get a centimetres cube conversion to meters cube conversion as another 2-mark question I've seen before, so all this is good to know. Okay, so how would you work out the ratio of x to y? Now, there's more than one way to do this, but I would probably do this. Plus y, 9y squared on both sides, so we get x squared equals 9y squared. Right. Now let's square root both sides. So that means we get left with x equals, now the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of y squared is y. So if x equals 3y, or you can say x over y equals 3, you can see that x is worth 3 times the amount of y. So that's why that ratio is 3 to 1. And I could see how you might think that's 1 to 3, but that would be incorrect, if that makes sense. Because if you think about it, if x is 1 here, and y is 3 here, you'll get actually 1 to 9. So that's why it's 3 to 1. So when x equals 3, y is going to be 1. So that's why that is that. Right, let's do B. So you just need to be able to factorise here. So whatever way you factorise, by inspection or whatever. But the bottom is nicer, and then I know that's going to be a 2x and then minus 1, and that's x minus 3. Yeah, that will get us minus 7, but just do whatever way you know. This top one is just a bit more difficult, And let me think, how would I explain that? Well, this is going to be a clue, right? If you've got the bottom, you know when you simplify these, one of these has got to be 2x minus 1. Right? I'm pretty sure. Let's just try it like this. So how are we going to get minus 4x squared? So we can say that's minus 2x here. So 2x times minus 2x, that's going to give us minus 4x squared. Now we're going to get a... we want a positive 3, right? So positive 3, that's got to be minus 3 here. Now let's see if this works. Minus 3 times 2x is going to give us minus 6x. Minus 1 times minus 1. That's going to work. And you could rewrite this like this if you want it neater. 2x minus 1. Now I like this like that. I'm going to leave it like this because it's acceptable. Another way you can do it, but this is how I'd probably do it, because you might have trouble doing that, but you've just got to try and factorise that. You could expand, try a few expansions. So anyway, you would get minus 2x minus 3 over x minus 3, and I know they like you to have positive terms, so you could just times top and bottom by minus 1. So that will change to 2x plus 3 over sorry, that should be a plus 3 over, so that's going to be 3 times minus 1 is 3. X times minus 1, 3 minus x. Technically they should give you the mark for that, it's all equivalent, so that's fine. They're both fine. Right, we're almost done, and yeah, my new tablet does not like drawing of these zoomed in, but I'll try to be accurate as I can. So on this grid worth 1 mark, you've got f of x here, f of minus 1, remember we solved this when it's on inside, it affects the x, on the outside it affects the y up or down. So if it's x minus 1, we solved that, so that's plus 1, so everything's going to shift 1. So if you just mark those points roughly, this is going to shift 1 here, that's going to shift 1. Just so you've got this nice and lined up, and you just draw maybe do that dotted, or if you do that, that should be acceptable. That's your 1 mark. So this is a turning point, which is here, minus 1 1. Write down the coordinates of the turning point, minus f of x plus 2. So if this affects, when it's inside the bracket, it affects the x coordinate, and it's a reflection on, so that means x coordinate changes. So if the x coordinate changes, what do you think where the reflection is? It's got to be here, because the x will be affected. So first step is this is going to go here. That's the let's just try to do that dotted. Right, so that is going to be this, something like here, but that's the reflection on the y-axis, and that's going should be something like that, because that reflects that. But it's going to be plus 2 as well, so it's going to move up 2. So this whole thing is going to move up 2. So that's going to move up 2 here. So that answer should be 1 3. and that will get you that mark. And surge, you should be very good at that, hopefully. So this, even if we've gotten what to do, we need to rationalize this. So I would expand that bracket. So do this in whatever method you prefer. That's 3 times 3 is 9 minus 3 root 2 minus 3 root 2 plus 2. So that becomes 11 minus 6 root 2. That's got to get you a mark. So we've got 1 plus root 2 over 11 minus 6 root 2. Now remember, we multiply it by its conjugate pair, so we cancel out the terms. Plus 6 root 2 2. So hopefully you can do the short form, which is going to be 11 times 11, which is 121, minus these two multiplied together, because the middle terms will cancel. That's going to be 36 times 2, which is minus 72. Expand the top, which is going to be 11 plus 6 root 2 plus 11 root 2 plus root 2 times root 2 is 2 times 6 plus 12. Let's simplify that. So we're going to get 23 plus 17 root 2 all over 49, and it says do it in this form, so let's just split this up. That's going to be the same as 23 over 49 add 17 root 2 over 49. So find the value of A and the value of B. So A should be 23 over 49. B is got to be anything that's not root 2. And those are those two answers, and that's done. But you should be able to pick up some marks up there, at least the method marks. So get, oh, that's worth 5 marks. 3 or 4 marks even if you make a mistake, but you could, get the 5 out of 5 here, which is really going to help you get that grade 9 or 8 if you can do that. Right, this is a really good thinking question, a little bit challenging because you need to know your trig identities, but let's look. What's going to help us find n here is we find out this h value here, then we can find this value here and use our trig rules to work stuff out. But we're just going to deal with algebra because this is what they want us to prove. So if you think this is the opposite, we've got hypotenuse, we want to find a hypotenuse, so we know sine 30 is going to equal opposite over hypotenuse, so that's y over h. Now sine 30 equals 0.5. You need to know that to be able to do this. So 0.5 equals y over h, times that by h, so we've got 0.5 h equals y. So that's the same as divided by 2, right? Because that's h over 2 equals y. So we're going to times both sides by 2 to get h equals 2y. And I'm sorry I'm rushing this, but I don't want this video to be long. So this h equals 2y. So for this triangle here now, we've got 30. We've got the right angle here. We want to find this angle. This here, the question mark here. And we have 2y here. We've got to keep things in terms of y. So what do we have here? That's the hypotenuse, that's the adjacent. So we have cos equals a over h, right? Adjacent is 2y, but cos theta, so I just forgot the cos x. So we've got cos 30 equals the new hypotenuse over the adjacent is 2y over this h. Now cos 30 equals root 3 over 2, so we're going to get root 3 over 2 equals 2y over h. Now let's just write this down here. Over h. Let's just cross multiply. So we've got h root 3 equals 4y, and the new h, which is a question mark, h equals 4y divided by root 3. When you rearrange, you should be understanding what I'm doing if you can get to this stage. So this question mark is 4y over root 3, and then I hope this is all going to work out. So our final triangle is this one here at the top. We've got 30, this is n, and we now know that this base is 4y over root 3. 4y over root 3. I'm trying to work out what n is. So what have we got here? We've got the opposite, I want to say opposite over the adjacent, which we know is tan. So we know tan 30 equals opposite over adjacent. So we're calling that n now. The adjacent is 4y over root 3, and we need to know that tan 30 is 1 over root 3. Now guys, you can get a grade 9 without doing this question. I mean, if you could do this question, you're grade 8, you're grade 9 guaranteed. Almost, because you've got really good thinking skills. So let's write 1 over root 3. This is a lot for 4 marks, a lot to remember. I would strategize cleaning up all your other marks first. So that's right. If I write this another way, because when you divide n by 4y over root 3 like this, you know it's keep change flip, so I'm going to write this as n root 3 over 4y. This is what it would be. So those root 3 should cancel, and I'm technically running out of space, so we get 1 equals n over 4y. Let's multiply both sides by 4y. So we get 4y equals n. Now what are we trying to prove again? Oh, made a mistake here. We don't cancel out. What's root 3 times root 3? That helps. That's 3, right? So we get 4y so there you go. This is what happens. We're going to get exam fatigue. You're going to make a mistake, and actually, you know, it's perfectly normal to do this. Lots of people, and you may have noticed, to make little mistakes in the exam. So we times both sides by root 3. We're going to get 3n equals 4y. So we get 3n equals 4y here. And I've forgotten, we're trying to show that y equals 3 over 4n. Oh, that's perfect. So we're divided by 4, and y equals 3 over 4n. And very good work. Well done for going through these videos. It's going to help you a lot. And you can see the thinking skills involved. It's just going to up level your grades. And I hope that helped.